Well, put the software in the microwave.
Yeah.
All right, back to the Jimbo Fisher from Richie Rich. Jimbo stealing money.
There's no doubt at this point. I mean, there's no doubt. But, that's nobody's fault but A&M's. They wanted to make a big statement, swing a big stick. And, that's the thing about the two big flagships in Texas, basically, is that's what they're known to do. And that's kind of why they both ended up in the same place ultimately. Texas has obviously had some more pockets of major success. But, yeah, I mean, that's kind of the running joke is that they've both got more money than anybody and more advantages than anybody and will tell you that more than anybody. And yet they're typically not the top two teams or one of the top two teams when all is said and done. And that's why it's a big deal if Sark can get it turned around and why Jimbo was such a big deal because someone got it to a certain point, 8-4 or bowl game wins and things like that. And they just needed that little push over the edge and push over the edge probably should have fixed the language in that because they didn't realize they were actually pushing it over the edge potentially with Jimbo by giving him basically the entire kingdom with no really repercussions. And so now you're 5 years in and nothing's really changed. Nothing's really changed from where they were at the end of the Kevin Sumlin era at all.
No,
I mean, quite frankly.
Okay, so what's going to happen if you're an A&M fan? Fair question. You kind of had things going your way. You've had these recruiting classes, and they've had some before, but you've kind of like been able to separate in a lot of ways, and you're in that elite level of recruiting. Okay. And you were also in the SEC, and you were gaining from that, even if there were still wins needed. You beat Alabama. And then within a year, the team that has been like your big black dark cloud is now coming into the same conference of which you had an advantage being in. And you start to struggle even this year. And if, in fact, they are a little bit different in Austin and they come up with a year that really shows momentum.
And don't negate Oklahoma also coming in. I mean, Texas is one thing, but Oklahoma is still the team that beat them 77-0.
Yeah, but they I get that. There's no question about that. They don't, whatever OU does, I'm talking about with A&M feeling as if they've been able to walk away and get away from their big brother.
I have an answer to all these questions for you. Part of A&M's problem and part of the Southwest Conference's problem, and the only school that really broke out of it from the Southwest Conference when they got in the Big 12 was Texas because they kind of could, because they started recruiting nationally and thinking globally when it came to their program. So A&M was so obsessed with Texas for so long. Everything was just about beating Texas. Got to beat Texas. Got to beat Texas. Got to beat Texas. That's what it was. It was so myopic that when they got to the SEC and they were able to shed themselves of worrying about Texas, even though a lot of people still, made their comments and whatnot, they absolutely, we're now in a new world where guess who thinks globally college football wise? Alabama does. LSU does. Two teams in your own division, not to mention that Florida does. And all these other teams that have been doing this for a while, they think that. So they were already playing catch up. And then when you get right to there and you have a guy who's not exactly willing to adapt, he kind of knows he kind of does what he does and it's always worked for him, then that's going to be tough. And they're stuck now because they don't have a coach that sees totally globally and they're new at seeing it. And a team that does, and a team that was actually really good at it in Oklahoma and who used to kick their butts all the time is coming in too.
OU doesn't get enough credit for being a national program. I'm not talking about competitive and being a part of the mix. I'm talking about their recruiting changed a few years ago, and it's not just the state of Texas. They are nationwide with what they do.
Yeah, and have been. Even when they were heavy Texas, they were still going and getting guys from California and Florida and all that. But, I'll say this. A&M missed their window. They missed their window of being special, and now they're just like Texas again, except for they're probably closer to little brother than being eye to eye. And I know that's a tough pill to swallow, but it's just the truth. For the person who asked us, what do we talk about, I'll tell you, if it's true, it's true. And we'll just talk whether it's, this or that, as far as people saying some people don't want to hear, it's true for A&M. They had their window of being unique and special, and they missed that window of being able to accomplish all that you hoped that they could. Still had some great moments, still had Johnny's run and all that good stuff. But really, since Johnny beat Alabama, how much better off are they? And y'all realize how long ago that was?
It
They're
was
basically in the same
2012.
spot, if not a little bit further behind. And now Texas and Oklahoma are coming in.
All right.
That's man.
That's what I'm saying. That's why I brought it up. Alan Carter, but aren't we counting them out too soon? Yes, shocking loss, obviously issues, but there's still a lot of talent. What if they all of a sudden start winning? And I don't expect them to win.
Please do.
They may
For
not
all
win
of our
tomorrow
sakes.
night at home.
Yeah,
No,
please do.
you're right that they're not going to go winless the rest of the way. But I think what you saw at quarterback was so okay. They can only get better there, you would think, absolutely, with Max Johnson. But it was just so pedestrian. And you would think, I was saying this upon the break, you'd think they'd have more weapons than they do offensively. They've got like two guys. They've got Anais Smith and they've got Devin Achane, basically, is what their offense is. There's a lot of holes in
Evan
this team.
Stewart.
True freshman, though.
Yeah.
No, I know, but I mean, he's still.
Not yet. I mean, he can be great, but I'm not going to put him in that category with those guys just yet. But yeah, it's certainly a lot of talent and promise for sure.